Psalm 5 is the first of many psalms in which David prays for vengeance against his enemies. There are more severe imprecatory or judgment psalms, but Psalm 5 provides a good introduction. Understanding psalms of retribution requires appreciating God's upright character and holy works. David has personal enemies, as he tells us in verse 8. The sting of their lying, flattering tongues makes him groan. But David wisely finds his conflict with evil men situated within the greater war between good and evil, between God and his enemies. The judgment that David seeks against those who have mistreated him harmonizes with God's opposition to evil. God does not delight in wickedness. In fact, he hates all evildoers and abhors the bloodthirsty and deceitful man, he says in verses 5 and 6. God will destroy those who speak lies, he says in verse 6, which harmonizes with Revelation 21, verse 8. But God is not only just, he also loves the righteous. Not that human righteousness coerces God's kindness. The only reason anyone can enter God's presence is, as David says in verse 7, through the abundance of his steadfast love. Bowing down toward God's holy temple and bringing a morning sacrifice assures David that he's on the Lord's side and that God will act on his behalf. In this way, imprecatory psalms condemn personal vengeance, as David illustrates in 1 Samuel 25, verse 33, while at the same time calling on God to exercise justice, as Paul says in Romans 12, verse 19. Believers can pray for judgment against their enemies because God has revealed his intent to judge them. The gospel extends an open invitation for the wicked to take refuge in God, as David says in verse 11. In fact, by nature, believers are no better than unbelievers, verse 9 says, and Paul quotes in Romans 3:13. But if the wicked refuse to repent, their own sin will guarantee destruction, per verse 10. Imprecatory psalms are offensive to nominal believers who tone down God's holiness and justice. They will not submit to God as king or despise sin as rebellion against God. But true believers who both fear and love God will embrace prayers and songs like Psalm 5. We delight in God's love and mercy and revere his justice and wrath against sin. And so we gladly trust in the God who can cover us, as David says in verse 12, with his favor. Psalm 5. To the choir master for the flutes, a psalm of David. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my groaning. Give attention to the sound of my cry, my King and my God, for to you do I pray. O Lord, in the morning you hear my voice. In the morning I prepare a sacrifice for you and watch. For you are not a God who delights in wickedness. Evil may not dwell with you. The boastful shall not stand before your eyes. You hate all evildoers. You destroy those who speak lies. The Lord abhors the bloodthirsty and deceitful man. But I, through the abundance of your steadfast love, will enter your house. I will bow down toward your holy temple in the fear of you. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before me. For there is no truth in their mouth. Their inmost self is destruction. Their throat is an open grave. They flatter with their tongue. Make them bear their guilt, O God. Let them fall by their own counsels. Because of the abundance of their transgressions, cast them out. For they have rebelled against you. But let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them ever sing for joy, and spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may exult in you. For you bless the righteous, O Lord. You cover him with favor as with a shield.